Welcome to Season 3 of The Aggregate, narrative coatings from around the globe. It's a diverse assembly of designers, architects, artists, and builders from our vast world whose experiences, stories, and lessons combine to make the grandiose plaster genre feel just a little smaller. Our show isn't just about triumphs and tragedies. Moreover, it's about insight, takeaways, and ultimately growth. These factual fables blend to storied histories that audibly enhance the trade, slowly passing down time-honored traditions amongst a fast and fictional digital era. This isn't artificial intelligence. Instead, we're celebrating actual intelligence. So take a third breath as New Age Artisans coats the planet and changes the standards of what it means to educate, empower, and create. I'm your host, Jeremy Mistretta, along with my friend on the dials, Vincent Ryan, and welcome to our show. All right, welcome back, plaster people. How's it all going today? It's Season 3, Episode 4. Hope everyone's doing well, wherever they may be on planet Earth. Last week, we zipped over to Russia by way of Florida and connected with Vasily Isakov, the incredibly talented bas-relief artist. We conversed about inspiration, some immigrant challenges, and the dream of future plaster endeavors. I really love talking to him, Natasha, and, of course, his cat, Mr. Mouse, who graced us with a quick little cameo across the screen. Well, like always, we're in the throes of it. We're in the midst of an ultra-holiday push to get a huge project complete in Big Sky. This insanely intricate home is peppered with subcontractors everywhere trying to stitch together their portion of the project. Many different languages are being spoken on site as the hustle and bustle of progress pushes us closer to the mid-January finish line. We've got stonemasons up from Mexico, cabinet builders from Germany, tile setters from Italy, architects from South Africa, and I even saw a glass setter from Lebanon on site. As much as it drives me crazy to see everyone crammed into the structure, I look around and count my lucky stars as I recognize not only do we get to work on some of the nicest homes in the world, but more importantly, we get to blend our plaster and have it specified. It's an incredible feeling as a business owner to see this crazy idea come to fruition. It's the spark that keeps me going. And now as the industry takes note, there's been other fires lit in different locations around the globe. Maybe you've noticed our newest endeavor in collaboration with Visions in Puerto Rico or Terua in Brazil. We've got a few more in the hopper too, so stay tuned as we bring our plaster formulas and branding to some different global communities. The raw materials that are needed to make plaster exist inside the geographical boundaries of just about every country on Earth, but it's the knowledge and the know-how to assemble these formulas that's lacking. And as the global trade tariffs push our silly geopolitical landscape into another potential Cold War, the need to share has never been more pressing. In Season 1, Doug Muniz de Vargas said, "The most important thing we can do is import and export knowledge." He is so very right. Thank you, Dougie. I think about his statement every day as I talk with Abraham and Mary Saul in Puerto Rico, Stefan Ayegman in Ghana. I was messaging with Brian Tobin in Ireland this morning. Always fun to talk to Joey Divinosa in Canada, Manu Narendran in India, and today, Matt Paneitz in Guatemala. How you doing today?
I'm well.
How'd I do on your last name?
My last name is Paneitz. My last name is Paneitz.
Paneitz.
Very close. Very close.
Matt Paneitz.
Paneitz.
All right.
Paneitz of the Round Table.
Okay. I got it. Yeah. My last name is Mistretta, and a lot of people are like, "Hey, Mistretta." I'm like, it's close enough. Yeah. How you doing? What's been going on so far?
I'm great. A wonderful day. I'm here in Harlem right now.
Oh, nice.
Enjoying the winter snow.
Yeah, you guys are getting hammered out there, huh? It's
Yeah.
it's wild.
Yeah, it was great.
It's like tropical weather in Montana. We had this wild, turbulent like week of frigid temperatures and crazy snow, and then it just went tropical. The wind picked up, and it's been like almost 60 degrees in mid-December. But it'll turn around. It snows. It always does. So this podcast here, The Aggregate, it's a labor of love. And I'll never forget the day I decided I was going to do it. I'd just gotten off the phone with yet another person from a different country when it dawned on me that we should be chronicling these conversations. I wasn't sure if it was going to work, but I knew it was my duty to at least try. And amongst every chat that I was having, there seemed to be some sort of hidden gem inside the esoteric banter that could be relatable and maybe life-changing to someone else. So now, here we are, amid our third season, and we're still trucking along. Listeners are nominating other guests, and in Matt's instance, marketing teams are finding us. I think everyone's gotten an email from an Eastern sheik who needs to store their fortunes in your bank account, or perhaps a 20-year-old vehicle that has miraculously earned an extended warranty. Some of these can be hard to filter through, but if you take the time to absorb their content and dream just a little, you may glance from the computer screen or your phone and stare at the ceiling and wake up on a private island in Belize, or a mansion in the Bahamas. And today, a sustainable school in Guatemala run by our esteemed guest. What looked to me like maybe some initial spam was actually a widely cast net attempting to capture podcasts that would and could help promote an insanely worthy endeavor. And by the end of this episode, I hope you are all as smitten with the effort as I am. So thank you, Matt. Thank you for your efforts. You built a city park. You've created your region's first high school. You watched those students graduate. Essentially, you changed the lives of at least 176 students and their respective families to boot. You also won a UNESCO World Heritage Award. This all started 21 years ago in 2004. You've been busy. That's an understatement. But it didn't start right there. There's a reason why you do what you do. And to understand that reason, I think it's important that our listeners understand you. So, you're in Harlem now, but where did you grow up originally?
I am most certainly not from Harlem.
It doesn't sound like a Harlem accent.
East Texas.
East Texas.
No. If you say the word pickup truck or back roads, then you'll start to hear my accent come out.
Yeah,
I'm from East Texas, kind of the swamplands along the Louisiana border.
Wow.
And grew up in a small town, small suburban town.
Nice. And what was it? Well, I've got some ideas conjured of what it would be like to grow up in a small suburban town in eastern swampy Texas. But why don't you tell us a couple stories? What was it like there as a youngster?
It was safe. I'll start there. You could, you could cruise around in your pickup truck on the back roads and hang out and go to random fields and, drive around forever. And we did a lot of that, right? Especially as I was in high school, we spent a lot of time on the back roads.
Yeah.
And there's lakes there and camp spots and, it was like endless nature. And I really enjoyed that. It was also really another, word comes up, which is hot, right? It is so hot there all the time. Even kind of like, through the winter months, it still remains pretty warm. So, I think it was a good, easy place to grow up.
Yeah. My parents were up this way and they live down in Texas. Now they kind of got out of the altitude here in the West and they're down in Texas. And I got them for Christmas, one of those little like itty bitty little solo stoves. The small, well, they started out big, but then they're small and they don't smoke, and they've made all sorts of little like coffee table versions. So I got a smaller one for them. And my mom, of course, was like, it's hot in Texas. It's like, yes, I'm aware. I'm aware it's hot in Texas, but there might be a month or two where you could use this. And she's like, yes, just kind of started. So, yeah. So driving around in trucks, hanging out in fields, swimming in lakes.
Yeah.
I'm imagining like a Kid Rock music video going on.
There you go.
We're substitute.
Right. Probably a lot of Budweiser.
Yeah. As you should be. Yeah. It was summertime in northern Michigan, but it's like summertime in eastern Texas. Yeah.
Like I'm up in the Northeast, spending more time in the Northeast right now, and people jump in the Atlantic Ocean. And I'm like, how in the world do you do this? It is so cold.
Yeah.
And then, because I came from where you jump in a lake in East Texas, it's actually warm water.
Yeah, exactly. Any snakes down there in Texas?
Every snake you've ever imagined is all right in one place. Mosquitoes the size of birds, fish that will bite you. I think that environment conjures up some pretty weird animals.
Yeah, the cottonmouth. Yep. No, thanks. I can deal with just about everything, but snakes, I'm like, you're not my thing. Not my thing.
Spiders. Yeah.
Yeah, even spiders I'm okay, because I'm just like, snakes are just so predatory.
And it was fairly normal for us. Like, when you grow up around those lakes, it's not a big deal in a day to see a water moccasin, a cottonmouth, and a rattlesnake, right? And you kind of take it in stride. You're not really all that concerned when you see them, because by then you've seen so many of them in your life that you're even messing with them a little bit. You might even grab a stick and poke them or something, for something interesting to do.
Vince shaking his head now. When we get offline, maybe during set break, I'll tell you greatest rattlesnake joke ever. It's not podcast appropriate.
Okay.
Yes. Did you do any sports or anything there in Texas? Play any football?
Yeah, I did a little Texas football. And I wasn't particularly great at it. Like, in high school, let's see, in junior high, our starting offensive line was like 6'5" was the average height, 300 pounds, right? And that's how big and how good everybody was. We went undefeated and unscored on that year. And no, I did not get to play very much.
Yeah.
Because, people are good at football in Texas, and I was not quite as committed to the game as I probably could have. And, after giving it a shot, I moved over to soccer, which, is not the most popular decision for somebody to make. But, I, up until a couple of years ago, I was able to play soccer pretty much throughout my entire life. And love playing ball. And then, there was a connection made in Guatemala.
Oh, nice. Fun. Yeah. I respect the game of football, and I totally am well aware of the fact that the football is like religion down in Texas, but I'm more of a soccer guy myself. Did you go to, after East Texas, did you go to college right out of the gate, like 18 years old, leave Texas and head to college?
I went to Southwest Texas State University, which is now called Texas State University. And at that school, there was, a river that ran through, and you could float that river, right? And so while you're on your way to class, you could decide that you want to float the river. And I unfortunately floated the river more than I actually went to school. So my first attempt at college did not go very well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Was that the Guadalupe River?
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That did not go very well.
Yeah, but that's okay. It's okay. It was funny. We were chatting this weekend with my parents and the kids, and we were talking about like a gap year that my wife and I really want our kids to do in between high school and college, because I just don't think that there's any reason that, an 18-year-old should be pushed into college without burning a few fun tickets along the way.
Yeah, I mean, that's what that was for me. That was my gap year, right? I ended up spending probably $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to have a really good time and meet a lot of people. Because if you look at it that way, you get access to, and a lot of these people are still my best friends now that I was able to meet in the freshman dorms while having the greatest time of my life, right? Yeah. And so it was an expensive way to do it.
Well,
but after that, I went to paramedic school.
Got it. And what year was that?
That was in 97.
Oh, okay. So you're just a little, are you 40, are you 47?
That would be nice. No, I turned 50 in September.
Oh, you look pretty good for 50. Yeah. I'm 45. So yeah, life does interesting things to people and, the way they look. One of my employees told me a couple of years ago, he said, I've watched you age 4 years and 3 months. Like, thank you. Shows you're paying attention. Yeah. I'm going to take that as a compliment.
What we call the Obama effect, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You got old quick.
Yeah. Instantly gray, or in my case, instantly just the hair falls out is what it is. So that's why I wear the hat all the time. Where were you based out of in paramedic school?
I was in East Texas, right? I was in rural. My first assignment after I finished school was in a rural East Texas county. And things happened really fast there. When you get out of paramedic school, you're supposed to jump on a team and then get trained by another paramedic. And the paramedic that I was supposed to be working with, well, the day that I arrived, he quit. Oh, wow. Because he was basically waiting for me to show up because there was a better team with a better ambulance at another company that was kind of waiting for him. So he basically quit. And then they threw me into the mix. And all of a sudden, one day out of paramedic school, I'm running the county. Right. That was a whole lot of responsibility for somebody like me.
Oh, my. Yeah. I mean, I've heard of people like trial by fire, like when they're in the, the restaurant industry. It's like, oh, best way to learn how to wait tables is just go wait tables. No reason to train. You're going to have a couple bad nights, but you'll figure it out. Right. I guess in paramedic school, a couple bad nights or days maybe means something a little bit different than some burned food or late.
Yeah. There was not a lot of room for error.
No,
in that space, and that was like before cell phones and before smartphones and before the internet, right? And so a lot of times when we would get out on a call and it was rural East Texas, you're out there on your own. You're doing that work by yourself. Because as a paramedic, a lot of times you can get on the phone or the radio and you can call the doctor and get advice.
Yeah.
And most of the time we couldn't do that. There was no direct connection between us and a hospital to figure out maybe a better way to do things while you're on a call.
Yeah. Yeah. Just figure out your own path and go for it. Troubleshoot and triage.
That's what the instructors told us. They were like, when you find yourself, cornered, nervous, intimidated, let the training take over and remember what you learned and it'll work. We promise.
Yeah.
They were right.
I remember early on, folks that were, friends of mine that were either, nurses, nurse practitioners or doctors, wilderness first responders, paramedics. We'd all be out in the backcountry doing crazy stuff and somebody would get hurt. And I would literally audibly hear one of my friends recite their workbook, their training, like cleaning a wound. Water must be fresh enough to drink. They're like, filter the water, get the water and filter it before you clean the wound, like you don't want to be mashing Giardia into an open wound, So it's like stuff like that. I totally get it. I just connected a dot too into your current practice, but we'll talk about that later. How long were you a paramedic for?
I was 5 years.
5 years.
And then I moved up to Virginia as a second part of that. And there's probably a couple of years of actual training where I was actually working in the field as well. So all in all, between 5 and 7 years. I haven't counted that in quite some time.
Decent amount of time, though, to be a paramedic. I bet you saw lots of fun, not so fun things. And then after that, you went to the Peace Corps, right?
Right. And that's what I was going to say. Like, had I not done Peace Corps, I would still be doing it because I absolutely loved it. Right. It was such a cool job where you wake up and you do something slightly different every single day that's really exciting. And plus you get a lot of free food from the fast food places because everybody wants the paramedic nearby.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that job.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we would always, whichever one of my friends had ascended, to be the doctor, that was always the thing, on big trips and stuff, go on a big long river trip. Everybody wants a doctor. It's just the way it goes. Yeah. How long were you in the Peace Corps for?
I made it a couple of years. Yeah. And that was quite a change from I was living in rural Virginia. Southwest Virginia is where I was a paramedic, and then shifted my entire trajectory of life to Guatemala. Mm-hmm. And that was a 2-year commitment.
So that's where you were based at, right out of the Peace Corps. You went straight to Guatemala.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then what prompted you to leave the world of, paramedic to go into the Peace Corps?
Well, my lady friend at the time,
she
said, hey, my lady friend said, hey, you want to join the Peace Corps? And I was like, sure, I'll join the Peace Corps. Yeah. She goes, you want to go to Guatemala? I was like, I've never heard of Guatemala. What's a Guatemala? I had never traveled the world at that point. We went to like Barcelona for like 2 weeks or something, but I'd never traveled. I was, unfamiliar with the world. Yeah. Yeah. And that'll change the direction real quick. It's like, well, are you going to Guatemala? Because I guess I'll be going to Guatemala due to situations that are outside of my control. I'll be there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what when you got to Guatemala, what did you think when you first got there? And then what sort of mission were you on when you were there with the Peace Corps? I feel like my initial response was a little bit like, this is kind of East Texas-ish. There were old pickup trucks and dogs running around and people on motorcycles. And so there was a sense of familiarity with, like East Texas seems a little lost in time as well as Guatemala does too. However, I saw something that I'd never seen before that pretty well shocked me and changed my entire life. And that was people living in extreme poverty. I'd never seen kids carrying firewood, instead of going to school in order to provide for their families. I'd never seen kids providing for their families, and I was exposed to that pretty much every single day while I was in training. And, that changed everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, like a mission goes, like what sort of projects were you working on there? Yeah, it was called Rural Youth at Risk. And what the Peace Corps said was move to this rural village in the middle of nowhere and improve the self-esteem of the youth of that area. And they gave us a little bit of training, but not probably enough. And it wasn't specified enough. And I think that what they gave you was a lot of leeway for you to figure out what you thought was the best thing to do while you're out there with those kids in the middle of nowhere trying to improve their self-esteem. And I landed on playing soccer with them and started little after-school youth soccer leagues and, a youth soccer team. And then what we did was travel a little bit and played other kids in other towns. And we called ourselves the Lazy Ones. Los Huevones was the name we gave our soccer team. And then, so was it like 2 years of playing soccer with the Guatemalans? Pretty much, yeah. That's what I did. I showed up to work every day in Umbros and played ball with the kids. Yeah. And it was fun. This is like a Central American version of Ted Lasso here. That's exactly. And I was playing 7 days a week too, because in our town, what I found was there's a lot of painters, and there's weavers, and there's masons and electricians and politicians and doctors, and each one of them had their own pickup day at the main stadium in town. And because as a Peace Corps volunteer, you don't necessarily pull 40 hours a week, I found myself playing ball 7 days a week with all those different groups of people and got to know everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. So 2 years of playing soccer with the Guatemalans, I bet, what sort of skill set you had probably rapidly increased. So then your 2-year stint is over. This nice lady that brought you down to Guatemala, is she still in Guatemala at this time?
She and I did not make it those entire 2 years.
2 years.
We
okay.
decided to go our separate ways during that time. So this East Texas person, me, right, I end up going down with somebody because it was their idea, and I end up staying and on my own. And that was another, there was some transformation going on there.
Transformational thing. Yeah. Well, those are good. Those are good life lessons to have for sure.
Yes.
Get those out of the way in your 20s.
Yeah.
So after your 2 years, what made you want to stay?
Well, I did, after my 2 years, decide to go back to the U.S.
Okay.
And I was trying to, do what everybody else was doing and get a normal job, enroll in college, and be a normal person. And I could not get it out of my mind. Right. And so I went back to work at a vineyard. My older brother was starting a vineyard in Southern Oregon, and he said, "You want to help me build it?" And so I walked into a pretty solid job, and then you're drinking all this really fine wine, eating these fine cheeses, and like at the same time, it's like you would think it'd be amazing because you'd be like, "Oh, I'm ready for hot showers, good food," because that's kind of like what you're missing while you're in the Peace Corps is food and water, And so, I thought that I was going to go back and I was going to, mix back in. And what I ended up finding out was, there was something on my conscience that I could not get rid of. And so the wine didn't taste as delicious as it should, or the cheese, or the cakes, or, any of the delicious food that America has to offer, especially in that world. Yeah, it wasn't as amazing as I thought it was going to be. And that feeling grew, and I wanted to do something about it.
Yeah. And you decided, I'm going back down to Guatemala.
And so I decided that I wanted to, I was still in contact with the people that were down there, and I was thinking about sending some money. And so I said to my brother, I was like, "Hey, I want to throw a jar on, the counter in the tasting room, and I want to raise money." And he said, "Well, you have to start a nonprofit." I was like, "What's a nonprofit organization?" I'd never even heard of that. And he said, "Well, that would be how you would, legally ask people for money." So then I went to the library because that was before the internet, and I filled out a paper application online, and then cold called a lawyer and cold called an accountant, and then they helped me fill out the paperwork. And then, then I was asked, "What's the name of the organization?" And Long Way Home popped up out of my CD collection. Right. So I pieced it all together, and within 1 year of returning, I was back on the road, going back to Guatemala to spend the rest of my life fighting poverty.
Sure. So Long Way Home, who was the artist on that CD?
Right. Dwight Yoakam.
Oh, okay.
I was, because of my breakup during Peace Corps, I got really into country music. And if you're trying to recover from a breakup, you listen to Dwight Yoakam. It's pretty heavy,
Yeah.
And so I still owned CDs at the time. And so I started looking through my CDs for song titles. Mm-hmm. And, I looked at the lyrics of the song, and it all made sense to me.
Yeah.
And so,
What do you get when you play a country song backwards?
What's that?
You get your girl back, you get your dog back, you get your truck back.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an oldie but a goodie. Yeah, we have two kinds of music, country and Western. But yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And that, it's like a rite of passage too, because you've already been listening to it before any of these things happen. And then they happen to you, and then you connect the dots to all the songs that you grew up with and be like, it is my right to be sad right now and to live that country song that you've been hearing for so long. So, I embraced it completely.
Yeah, it's like, God damn it, I'm going to go on a country road. I'm going to roll the windows down, and I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
Because I feel like
that's
it.
Right.
And no one's going to tell me that that's not okay. Yeah, no, I get it. I've done it. It's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And you need all those life experiences to gain perspective, because if you don't have any perspective, you have nothing to gauge your life on,
Right. And ask me later. I wrote Dwight Yoakam a letter about a week ago. Ask me about that towards the end.
Oh yeah. Definitely going to ask you about that for sure. Let's take a quick break. We're going to hear Vincent talk. And while Vincent talks, I'm going to tell you a rattlesnake joke.
Hey team, Vincent here. Many have mentioned that plaster is having a moment. At New Age Artisans, we're happy about that, and add that plaster is the moment. As our world continues to spin faster and faster every day, this magical medium offers innate and constant beauty and commands us to engage our senses, giving us greatest gift of all, presence. As we admire carved pieces, ornate cornices, rendered facades, and veneer coatings, the impossibility to encapsulate the word plaster into a simple and cohesive definition is evident. Each country, region, and township can have their own meanings, uses, and purposes for plaster. And as the public stares at shiny internet images, the demand for knowledge has become more prevalent, with architects, designers, builders, and homeowners being tasked with repairing, restoring, or recreating elements of this lost art form. Historical information is sparse and is the gateway to entrance into the trade. Sadly, these coveted secrets and tightly held techniques run the risk of extinction if not properly cataloged, and newcomers deserve ease of access into the field as a global labor force continues to dwindle. What if there was a place that preserved these techniques and fast-track gateway information that encouraged craft folk to stay engaged and thriving in the field? Well, that space is here, and it's called the Plaster Portal. With a small annual fee of just $75, baseline members to the Plaster Portal get access to tips and tricks that they can't find anywhere else online, as well as discounted pricing on New Age Artisans plaster blends in our growing global market. Are you wanting to further your plaster expertise? We're here for it. With a simple baseline account, subscribers can upgrade to our Artist Series classes, taught by niche and industry professionals from around the world. Learn cornice in situ and sculpture from the United Kingdom, Tattalact from Brazil, floral casting in the States, and drywall from an industry icon. But that's not it. We have more in the hopper as we're constantly creating new content. Sign up is fast, easy, and affordable. Head to newageartisans.com and click the Plaster Portal link to get started. We're gaining new members every day, and we can't wait to have you as part of our community. Before we get back to the show, here's a past guest with a quick hello.
Hi, this is Becky Little and Pip the dog, listening from lovely damp Scotland. Hope you're having a great day and you're listening to The Aggregate. Keep up the good work, guys.
Okay, everybody. We're back with Matt Paneitz, Knights of the Round Table. Thank you, Becky Little. Earthbound Orkney, been checking out your progress, loving your Instagram posts, loving what you're doing with Earth. And I don't think that there's anybody that is as unique and captivating in the world of Earth and architecture as you, my friend. So thank you so much. I'm honored that you were a guest with us last year, and I urge everyone to listen to her episode. I think you'll be blown away at the work that she's doing. back with Matt. I told him a rattlesnake joke that he had heard an iteration of before. I was telling him that I told a bunch of 12 and 15-year-old kids that joke at the Thanksgiving table a couple weeks ago, and it went over pretty well. But most of the adults at the table had heard it, too. Before the break, we were talking about Matt's upbringing in Texas. We were talking about his esteemed football career, both American football and European football and South American football. We were talking about his paramedic career for 5 years, his move to Virginia, then his move down to Central America, and his return to the U.S., and then in turn return back down to Central America to the calling. This is where things get a little bit more interesting, probably for Matt, so he doesn't have to hear me talk all the time. He can start talking. You leave the company that your brother had started, and you move back down because you had the calling. What was it like creating this nonprofit, and how was it received in Guatemala?
You know, how much more fun can a person have? I sold all of my belongings, right? I bought a $500 car, left Oregon, picked up a friend in Dallas, picked up a friend in Austin, drove along the west coast of Mexico all the way down to Guatemala with like the very basics. So, 3 people in a car where like the sunroof wasn't working. I think only one of the windows worked, and we didn't care at all. Right? We were enjoying the wind. We were hitting the beaches on the way down, singing loud country songs and having a great time. Like, that's what it was like to actually start it. Leaving everything behind seems like it'd be a big deal. But it was about the lightest, really, that I think that I felt in a really long time. And then when I got there, I don't think anybody actually knew that I started a nonprofit, because it's not like you show up and you go, hey, everybody, we got a nonprofit. It's like I moved into a house where we started building the park, and, it wasn't like a big reception from the whole town or anything. It all happened very quietly, in the sense that my buddies and I moved into this house. This house did not have water, did not have electricity. I think it had sort of a roof, not like the best roof. The windows were not working well. It was like glorified camping, basically. Yeah, not really a very good bathroom either. So yeah, it was all pretty low key, and we sat by the campfire and played the guitar and, worked 14 hours a day because we were having fun doing it.
Yeah. And the 2 other people that were with you, they were Americans, right?
Yeah. Yeah, buddies of mine from Texas.
Yeah. And did you pitch the idea to them in Texas? Like, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to go to Guatemala and we're going to change the lives of everyone.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I was pretty idealistic at that point, because even whenever I was in Oregon, whenever I was pitching that idea, telling all my friends, I thought everybody was going to come with me. I did not think I was going to be driving from Oregon to Texas alone. I thought that half the planet was going to be like, yeah, let's all go do this together. Let's fight poverty. Because a lot of the people around me, especially in that part of the world, were like, yeah, let's live our morals. And nobody came. I pulled out of Oregon by myself.
Yeah. Can we just post this on Instagram and tell everybody we did this? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's not surprising at all. I've seen that in past iterations of projects that I've done. I'm like, come on. Wah, wah, wah. Yeah. So you get down there, you're in Guatemala, you're with your 2 poverty fighting friends from Texas, and your first project is this city park. How did the locals feel about these 3 Americans that just showed up to fight poverty? Like, did you have a mission statement all set up to them? Did you have to pitch this idea? How did they give you the land to work on? So many questions.
Yeah, I went back to work with the organization that I was working with before, because while I was upon my return, I was still in contact with them. And so they left the door open. They said, if you ever want to come back, you can come and build this city park. Because they were gifted from the Christian Children's Fund, I believe, sometime in the 80s or 90s, 5 acres of land. But they didn't get any of the money to actually develop the land. So they were sitting on this huge piece of property. They wanted to build a park. We're never going to be able to do it. So they said, yeah, go for it. And then, and the park was on the outskirts of town. It was about a mile and a half walk to get all the way back to town. So, we're pretty good old boys. And so whenever we say, hey, we're going to build a park, and we start pulling the grass from the mountainside and planting it in the grass, in the dirt soccer field, and then everybody around sees you doing it. They see you working 12, 14-hour days and having fun while you're doing it and listening to music. It brings people around. Mm-hmm. And so, but like, you're living there and your neighbors, you go to the neighbor's house and that neighbor sells firewood, and then you hang out with them for a couple of hours while you're trying to buy firewood, and the other neighbor sells coffee, and then you get to know them. So we slowly got to know everybody in the neighborhood and became good friends. And, that kind of became our family.
Yeah. And how many years did that project last?
That was 4 or 5 years. We went 2005 to about the end, at least, of 2009, 2010.
Yeah. Working nonstop.
Yeah. We were going hard, and we built a basketball court, soccer field, community kitchen, terrace gardens. We planted 30,000 trees during that time. Brought in water and electricity from Engineers Without Borders. Yeah, we were having fun and working hard.
Hot damn! And then, like your cost of living, I'm just going to assume that you had some donors to your nonprofit, so you're able to feed yourselves and keep a roof over your head. A little bit.
So I raffled my 1973 Caprice Classic convertible that I put together while I was a paramedic. When you're a paramedic, you work 24 on, 48 off, and you have a couple of days to do something else. Mm-hmm. I put together a 73 Caprice Classic convertible, and I raffled that car, and that was our initial money to get going. And that sort of set the example. When people saw that I was willing to sell all of my stuff and give away everything, then other people were like, yeah, I'll throw in on that a little bit. And, got 500 here, 1,000 there, all from friends. It's not like I was fundraising. I wasn't setting up golf tournaments, right? There were no car washes or anything like that. I was basically asking my friends and family to give me money. And I don't think that actually went very well, because they were like, what do you mean? I don't come from that world where people are super philanthropic. They're nice, but they don't have tons of extra money. And so, we pieced it together.
Yeah. And a lot of people, people have rules. That's what I realized in the fundraising that I've done. People have rules and people have guidelines, and they have like these outlines of which they assume their money should stay in. And a lot of people, it's everyone's values. A lot of people want to keep their money local. They don't want to just give it to an organization that they're not 100% affiliated with. Or what I have found too is like a lot of these organizations, even though they're amazing, but there's like a large amount of clerical fees that are involved in some of these places. So they're not entirely sure where their dollar's actually going to go. And that's all viable.
And that's fair. Right. And that's fair because, it makes sense that somebody would want to fund their Little League team in their town, and that a local business would sponsor that team, and that you keep money local.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we didn't have a business plan, right? We didn't have a 5-year plan. We didn't have a strategic plan. We didn't have any of these things. It was a couple of really passionate people who felt like something needed to improve for some other people that nobody had ever met or heard of.
Yeah.
Like my friends and family didn't know a single Guatemalan. They didn't know Guatemala was living in poverty. They were taking my word on the entire thing. And that is not the strongest position to be in when fundraising, with passion alone.
Yeah. And then how did the locals, were the locals pretty supportive of your mission, or were they like, no, get the hell out of here, silly gringo?
No, they loved us because we're Texan and we can do the backroads thing, and we can plow a field all day long if you want to use some lyrics from a Hank Williams Jr. song. Like, we're able to work really hard. And when the locals saw us working as hard as they're working, we got along really well. And they all welcomed us in the sense of like, okay, you guys are going to work. You're not going to be like executives sitting in the corner telling us what to do. You're going to go and work with a shovel, and you're going to work for 12 hours, and you're going to have fun doing it. Yeah, man, that brings people. And so the locals loved that idea.
After the park and after, the years of service there, you went on to the next mission, which was to build a campus for school. How did you choose a school? How did you decide, okay, let's do the school thing?
Yeah, so while we were building the park, what we saw was our neighbors and the people in our town living in extreme poverty, right? Like, recreation is important, soccer field, basketball court. These are all important things for the local neighborhood kids to have a place to go. But a lot of them, we noticed, were not able to even use the park as much as we would think they'd be able to, because they were spending their time after school trying to survive. Right? They were collecting water. They're collecting firewood. They're scavenging to put their houses together. And we had, some construction experience before we even started building the park. The co-founder of Long Way Home, he was, during his Peace Corps time, was building stoves, water tanks in a different area. And so while we were building the park, we built stoves and water tanks for a few of our neighbors and a few of the families. Mm-hmm. And that's where we came up, and I said, I'd like to scale this poverty fighting thing a little bit outside of the park. Let's do it by building a school. And my buddy says to me, have you ever built a school out of trash? You want to build it out of trash? You ever built anything out of trash? And I said, no. And we were off to the races.
Yeah. At that point in time, did you have like some sort of like media kit to keep raising money, or did you just say, screw it, we're just forging ahead, and we'll piece together what we can when we can?
Yeah, there were a few. So our model was, as we were building the park, volunteers started coming. So whenever this is a little bit before Facebook as well, but whenever you go to the tourist towns, what you do is you go and you hang out with a few people and you tell them about what you're doing, because we were not in a tourist town. And we noticed a lot of the people in the tourist towns wanted to get off the beaten path, right? And so we offered that opportunity, and then we started charging those volunteers to come spend time at our site. That was how we first started to really generate income. Then we started charging volunteer service groups, so people who wanted to come and spend time with us rather than maybe going to Daytona Beach for spring break. They wanted to come spend a week building a park. Yeah, we charged them as well. And that was how we started actually making money outside of asking people for donations. But yeah, still people were giving us donations as well.
Yeah. I'd much rather go to Guatemala and help build a school campus than I would go to Daytona Beach or Panama City, exactly. Florida or something, one of those quintessential South Padre Island, Texas,
Right.
Yeah. Let's just,
But I've done South Padre.
Yeah.
So I got the feeling and I understood it. And what I noticed was, there's not a lot of reasons to go to these small towns, right? There's a lot of reasons to go to the tourist towns because that's where, those are the offerings. But there'd be no reason at all to go to one of these small, out-of-the-way towns. And as a Peace Corps volunteer, we had friends scattered throughout the whole country. So I really got to know a bunch of these small towns and knew what it was like, and then started offering that. And then those volunteers started to become our donors. So they'd volunteer with us, then they'd leave, go back home, and then they would fundraise. They'd have a garage sale. They would do something to help us make money. Mm-hmm. That's where we started to get staff. That's where we started to get board members. That's where the organization really started to grow, was from those volunteers.
Yeah, that's like the definition of a grassroots movement right there. Everything starts organically. That just starts with this little spark. And then next thing you know, you have this conflagration that's kind of spread out, and everyone has a fire under their ass and they're ready to go and they're ready to start donating and get behind the cause. And the cause, I read your bio, and your bio is insanely humble, by the way. It's just like ticks these little moments of like, oh, then I did this, and then I did this, and I did this. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. But then you click on the link, and I'm like, holy shit. Once I start clicking on the link and I start to see everything that you've done, you created a campus that was made entirely out of remnant trash from a developing country. You created buildings with water cisterns. You took all of the tires, you packed them with trash to create structures. You used earth and mud to coat all of these earth bag domes and rammed earth tires. What was it like? I mean, you get all these people that show up from, different parts of the world. What's it like to see that from your perspective when you see your dream become a reality and you see all these people with their hands in the mud?
It's kind of unreal, especially like when you don't actually have a really well, set plan and you're piecing it together. It's, invigorating when you're all out there and you ask people to swing a sledgehammer to put dirt into a tire. And this is stuff that people wouldn't necessarily do and get paid for, right? Like a lot of my friends are not like, yeah, I'm really looking for a job using a sledgehammer to, for 8 hours a day. And then they come out into one of our job sites and they go, yeah, I'm having the time of my life. And I want to do this, we could stop at 4:00 and they're like, no, I'll go to 6.
Yeah, let's keep rocking.
Everybody's having such a good time working together doing this. We're singing songs and having a few beers by the campfire afterwards. Like, yeah, that feels great whenever you step back and think about, how it went. Yeah, it's shocking.
Yeah, and you don't put like a monetary value to it, and people aren't sitting there looking at their watch trying to figure out, oh, what time is it? When can I, get home? They're just like there, and they're goal oriented as opposed to time oriented, which is two very different mentalities. And you have to, I think, step out of your comfort zone of your 9-to-5 job to become goal oriented in something like that. And you're right, in the camaraderie.
Yeah, and transforming out of that, typical 9-to-5 lifestyle and then jumping into the, hey, we're having a great time doing this together.
Talk to me about the mud. Where's all that mud coming from? Is that taken specifically from the site or around the site, or is it getting carted in? Where's everybody grabbing it from? And then are you mixing aggregate in it? Are you mixing straw in it? How are you mixing it? A lot of plaster questions.
Yeah. That was, in Guatemala, there's no Home Depot, at least when you're out in the middle of nowhere where we were. And so whenever you start building, you've got to use what is available to you, right? Because otherwise it takes a lot of time and a lot of money to be trying to bring stuff in. And we bought a couple of acres with a south face that had a pretty decent incline to it. And so as we dug out the platforms for the buildings, we piled it all up right in the middle. And that was the dirt that we put back in the tires. And then that is the exact same dirt that we use to fill the voids.
Yeah.
And then also the same dirt that we use to make the finishes as well.
Yeah. And then the finishes, are they sacrificial finishes? Do they have to be recoated often? Or is it something that, will stand the test of time?
Well, we've been experimenting the entire time, right? We did not walk into this with a whole ton of experience doing any of this work. So it was all experimental. And at first we were adding a lot of manure to the mixes. And then we found out that it wasn't really necessary. It was holding together pretty well without having to add as much manure. And, we couldn't find straw, so we started using pine needles, but then the pine needles are brittle and they don't actually work. So then you go back out, and if you want straw to mix in, you got to find a straw guy, who's out in a field in the middle of nowhere and coordinate your mixes with his harvest of his straw, right? It's not like you can go somewhere and buy a bale of hay whenever you feel like it. You have to coordinate all of these things. And so, a lot of our mixes are still there from 2009. A lot of them we have not had to touch. Mm-hmm. And then some of them, they didn't go as well. And that's kind of the fun thing about cob and earthen finishes is it's really not a big deal to, go back and fix it.
Yeah, patching's easy. Just re-wet, rework it. And if you need to coat another area, you can just go ahead and, re-wet it, rework it, and put some more material right over the top, and it's going to bond. It's like on like materials, which is what's beautiful. Are you doing any sort of topical layer over the top, like a lime wash or anything, or is it all just strictly earth and mud?
Yeah, no, we bought limestone and slaked our own lime, and so the walls look like drywall, right? Because, at first everybody was like, at least the locals were like, wait, you're going to build walls out of trash? Well, isn't that going to look like trash? And no, we don't want houses or structures that look like trash. So there was a resistance to it at first. But then once we threw that lime plaster over it, and it looks like a drywall, it looks like drywall. Mm-hmm. It's perfect. Everybody loves it. The rooms are beautiful, white, brilliant white. They shine. Then we put glass bottles in the roof, and that reflects off of the white.
Oh, my.
And they're absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. Now, do you have any sort of criteria for any of the trash that you're using? Or is there some trash that's like, absolutely not, you cannot put this inside a wall for some various and sundry reason? Or is it kind of like anything you see goes?
Well, yeah, there's a whole classification system going on because, first of all, there's trash all over the place. And most of what you get are little plastic bags or chip bags. And those go into plastic bottles. You try to make them dry. And then you can put those, because, we use them in construction to actually build structures, but the point is to get it out of the waste stream. Mm-hmm. So when you're building with tires and you have that little void between the two tires, after you've staggered the tires, you cram the plastic bottle into that void. But let's say you get a piece of plastic or some trash that doesn't fit into a bottle. You could take a broken toy and cram it into that void and then plaster over it as well. So, we're constantly figuring out where to work the trash into which building and how so that we can get rid of it. Because it's, there is not, the municipality does not have a great way of disposing of the trash quite yet.
Yeah. That's a larger question I'm not going to ask, maybe later. But my mind was churning there. You've taken this perspective of yours and this entire way of thinking, and you have crafted your own educational model off of it, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. That is
yes.
wild. And the method is essentially for your students and for your staff to confront the problems that are directly in front of them and find a methodology to deal with them. Where did this method come from, and why did you choose it?
Yeah, so whenever we started, let's say we had 4 or 5 buildings up, and that allowed us to put our first 12 or 13 students in one classroom. And then we hired some teachers, and then all of a sudden you have a school. Right. And so what we saw were the teachers were standing in front of the students and they were doing what we call the banking system of education, where the teacher stands there and goes, hey, remember all this information, and then I'm going to ask you to regurgitate on a test later. Mm-hmm. And that's how they were teaching. And so we didn't want to go through all of this trouble of building a sustainable living demonstration campus and then teach something not of its value, not of the campus's value on the inside.
Yeah.
So I left the job site. Yeah. And so, I decided we needed to come up with a different model. And that model, there was nothing in particular that we could easily copy and paste. So I went and enrolled in a master's of education in philosophy of education course at Goddard College, and I started looking for education models, fairly systematically within an actual program, and I never actually found any models, right? There wasn't anything that you could copy and paste that would work directly within Guatemala. So we decided to combine other philosophies of education and other models, take their best practices, and then combine them with what needed to happen in Guatemala. And that's how I came up with the Hero School education model.
My, only a school in northern Vermont would stamp that one. Did you go back? I was actually just went by Goddard College a couple of weeks ago. Did you, was it a difficult mission to get the folks at Goddard to approve that, or what was that like?
Yeah, Goddard was like the place on earth that would hear what I was describing and go, that's a great idea. Like I got such a warm reception from the different professors there who, like, Goddard was the first place I think where I'd ever like tried to get an education and somebody really was like, what do you want to do? What do you want to learn? And how can we craft what we do around what is important to you? Like that had not crossed my mind before. Normally, when you go to school, you enroll in a program and they have a syllabus and, a whole curriculum and you follow the steps and you do it.
Yeah.
That is not how Goddard worked at all. Goddard was constantly checking back in with you to figure out how we could adjust everything to make your dreams come true.
Wow, that is wild. And then how did the folks in the town feel about, you and your education? And how long did it take once you took this curriculum that you developed and you brought it? How long did it take to integrate that into the community you were working on?
Yeah. So, whenever you come up with a big, random, weird idea, it takes a minute to try to pull everybody into the fold. And so, whenever you're pitching it and you're talking to the teachers and the parents and you've got these big ideas, you got to roll it out some for people to have the slightest idea what you're talking about. Right. And so whenever I would talk to the teachers and I go, hey, let's use this school to fight poverty because there's not a lot of other people fighting poverty in this town. And let's leverage our assets. Let's use this campus. Let's use the lessons learned while building this campus. And theoretically, everybody wants to do that. Right. They're all like, yeah, that makes sense. Because who can say, no, I'm not really into that. Let's not do that. Everybody's on board. They're interested, but they don't really know exactly what you're talking about, And so, then what you do is you roll it out and you go, okay, the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th graders, we're all going to go out into the town and we're going to build stoves, water tanks, compost latrines, and we're going to do it together and we're going to try to use our curriculum to do it. And then it doesn't go very well the first time, it's a mess. Now I think we're on our 7th or 8th time doing it. And it's a fairly well-oiled machine at this point.
Yeah. Everything takes time, and theory and practice are two completely different things. And I was having a chat with my employees this morning, the field crew, just about, the learning curves, and no one's got this magic book that just says this is how you do it. And when you work in a creative avenue like plaster, there's always learning curves that you're going to be around. If you're not up for a learning curve, then maybe go sit at a desk, because that might be the job for you, is my take on it, which is ironic that I have a creative business, but yet I do sit at a desk all the time to make sure that it works. I realize that.
As do I.
Yeah, I know. Damn it. You've got another degree as well. You've got a master's, you've got an undergrad degree, you've got a master's degree, and now you're working towards a doctorate. What is your doctorate in?
Yeah, my doctorate is a doctorate of education because I'm still, all these years later, that whole master's program, I graduated from that in 2015, right? Now it's 2025, and I will graduate this year, and we're trying to democratize our entire education model because, you have all of these pieces and all of these people, and they're all trying to work together, and you want it to work as efficiently as possible. Yet it's not something that we spend nearly enough time on in school. And there's a lot of educational philosophers that would agree. That's what I've spent a lot of time investigating, what educational philosophers think are some of the biggest problems with education. And so at least for now, with this doctorate, I'm going to create lesson plans for our social studies class so that we can improve the quality by which we work together. Also, Guatemala is a democracy, and we want to work with the democracy. We want to work with the government officials. We want to bring people into the fold. And, the way that their social studies classes are set up now it's not done in such a way that it's going to improve our ability for all of us to communicate. So, I'm going to improve the quality of our social studies classes through democratic education.
Yeah.
And then our poverty fighting model will unite, and we'll work with government officials. We'll all work better together is the idea. That's
beautiful. And what I like about your mission is that, I see these folks that'll, you're fighting against poverty, right? Poverty is, it's just an unfortunate reality for these developing countries, but you're working with the democracy. And I see folks that'll come in and they'll work against the ruler to try and completely upend and change. And it's I don't know if that's going to work in our lifetime. I like the fact that you're taking these already established rules and guidelines and you're working with them to just slightly shift the paradigm. I think that's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. And, there's a lot to work with there. The structure for people to coexist is there, mm-hmm. right? Now we have to create the increments, which, relates back to plastering, right? When you plaster, you do layers.
Mm-hmm.
You do one big layer, it's going to crack.
Yeah.
And it's going to fall off, or it's not going to look right. But if you do small layers, the same way when building democracy, if you take lesson plans and build that communication into the lesson plan, and then you build it out and you take your time and you work it out over years, then you're set up for a system within a system that's going to get better.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what, we think of it very much in the system of plastering as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then you have, shiny surface that everyone can see. You also have a book as well, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We wrote the Green Building Manual.
The Green Building Manual.
Yeah. We wrote the Green Building Manual. And that was our attempt to take some of the information that we gathered over time. And the thing is, whenever we started doing this, there was not a lot of information to work with.
Mm-hmm.
You had to pull it from a bunch of different books. There was not one book or one magic book, like you were saying before, where you could pull everything in and you have to. And so we wanted to make it easier for people and put all of the relevant information from our experience in one place.
Yeah, beautiful. Where would one buy the book?
You can email me at matt@lwhome.org and I can send it out. We haven't set up our website in such a way where it's easy to process all of that because I have to carry the books with me pretty much in order to sell them. But I will send it to you myself.
I like your style. It's a labor of love, buddy. It's good stuff. That's mostly how we work too. It's just everybody's looking for this insanely fast-tracked way to get how do we get this? How do we get this? Scale. And I'm like, you got to scale from the bottom up. You can't just go right, We're not going to flip that pyramid on day one here, people. Come on. Are they signed copies too?
I can sign them, sure. Soon I'll be able to add DR.
Yeah.
I'll have a better title to sign.
I like that. I'm gonna buy one for sure. Of all of these students that have gone through your curriculum and your campus, what have some of these students gone on to do in their lives? Do you have any miraculous stories that have happened?
My favorite story is a young student named Jocelyn. And whenever we first came across Jocelyn and her family, they were basically living in a lean-to. And they had signed paperwork to get a loan, and they were going to pay like 60% interest on their loan. And so we took this huge leap, right? And I said, default the loan, right? Because they hadn't actually started spending any of the money yet. I was like, get out, and we will build you a house, and we will figure this out with you, because that, it's ridiculous. And so, yeah, we ended up building them a 3-bedroom house, and it was out of tires and harvest water. And then all of their kids graduated from our school, right? She had 5, Jocelyn had 5 sisters. And so all of the kids graduated from our school, and Jocelyn, who graduated from our school, will be graduating from law school. And there was a brother in there as well, and her brother's going to graduate from architecture school. And so all of the kids went through our system and are on a path to success. The cycle of poverty has been broken for all of them. And that has happened a lot of times by now, because we build stoves, water tanks, the things that keep families in the cycle of poverty. That's the infrastructure that we build for these families. Mm-hmm. And once you break that cycle, they're all of a sudden free to not spend their entire lives collecting water and firewood, right? They can go to school, they can get jobs, they can get training, and the cycle can be broken.
Yeah. They've gone from they pushed past survive, and now they've entered thrive, which I think is beautiful. Right. Yeah, that's super beautiful.
And Jocelyn has entered thrive.
So cool. If somebody is listening, and it is the holiday season, wink, wink, nod, nod, everybody out there in listener land, if somebody wanted to donate to your amazing program, Long Way Home, how do they go about doing that?
It's real easy. lwhome.org, top right-hand corner, big donate button, and we take PayPal, Venmo, and then if somebody wanted to write a check, something like that, you can email me, matt@lwhome.org. We can do wire transfers. There's a lot of ways to do this.
Yeah, beautiful. If somebody wanted to volunteer, how would they go about that?
Yeah, you can get a bunch of information on our website. There's a volunteer drop down on the menu, and all the information is there. And if you wanted more information specifically, and I could help follow up and give you details, you can email me, and I will answer all your questions, and I'll get you door to door.
Okay, cool. And then what's the next big mission? What's the next big project on the campus?
Yeah, that's my favorite question these days, because now that we've done all this, we've got the campus pretty much set. We've still got a little bit of construction to do around there, but now we've actually gotten the point to where we've piloted our student projects and our poverty fighting with our students and teachers so much that we're now ready to share this process with the public schools and involve the public schools in poverty fighting. So that means rather than only the students at our campus, and our teachers, we're going to take the students at the other public schools, wrap them into our system, and then instead of it being a couple of hundred people, we'll be a couple of thousand people fighting poverty. We're going to crush poverty. We'll end abject suffering in our town, at least to start. And then what town is going to say we really don't want to use subject matter at our public schools to fight poverty, right? And that's where we're headed. We're going to scale this and work within the public school system and have, public school students fight poverty.
Yeah, fighting fire with fire. I love that.
Everybody wins.
Yeah, everybody wins. Yeah. Everybody wins on this day. This has been amazing. I'm looking forward to getting involved in some projects down there. I'm looking forward to offering any insight we can. And I'm looking forward to promoting the living hell out of it and see if we can't raise you some beautiful funds for your next mission.
I'd really appreciate that. And if you can imagine those beautiful funds that go to our next mission, we're that close from eradicating poverty in our town first and then moving on to the next town. we're really, really close. And so now more than ever, every single penny means that we're going to have an enormous impact. So
beautiful. Well, let's, everyone out there, let's expect to hear from me. You know who you are, people. We'll be pushing this one over the edge for you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity to tell my story. And thank you for doing this podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. It's a labor of love, as I said. Not much different than you. So, yeah, I'm going to be listening to Dwight Yoakam for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Buenas noches from a lovely room. That's
right.
The song. Or the Long Way Home song.
The Long Way Home. Perfect. Well, thanks, man. And yeah, have a good rest of the day, and we'll talk real soon.
Deal.
Thanks for listening, everyone. It's such a beautiful effort, and I hope each and every listener donates to Matt's cause. Please join us next as we head north to New Mexico and connect with Nick Harmon, the owner of the innovative wall finishing company Fresco Harmony. We'll learn how a passion for taping and texturing push the boundaries of a medium and simultaneously open the doors to all in the travel trades. Until next time, cheers!